More than 30% of U.S. school children are now obese.
The number one healthcare crisis that our children are facing today is the advent of childhood obesity.
A child who is chronically obese or has hypertension and high blood pressure has a huge problem.
The childhood obesity crisis in the United States cannot be overstated.
Things were different 50 years ago. Kids played outside after school and on weekends. Moms stayed at home and prepared meals for their families. Kids rode their bikes or walked to school. Fast food hadn't even been invented. Now kids have about 5 hours of screen time a day, including TV, video games, and the internet. Kids no longer play outside after school. Kids take the bus to school, or their parents drive. As of 2008, about 70% of women with children under 18 are in the labor force, and we've become a fast food nation. As a consequence, childhood obesity has more than doubled since 1980. Now, 1 in 7 low-income preschool children are obese. This is a challenge that affects us all. To get a medical professional's view on childhood obesity, I talked to my pediatrician, Dr. Michael Sia. Dr. Sia, can you define childhood obesity for us?
Well, obesity, by definition, is actually measured in the percentiles on a growth curve that we have, or by a calculation called the body mass index.
What are the medical consequences of childhood obesity?
Hypertension, which is high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They also have bone and joint problems, and also some of their organs can have problems like their lungs and heart. And then finally, there's another entity called diabetes, and there's a specific one for kids that are really overweight that's called type 2 diabetes. Some of the causes for obesity, it's children that probably have too much to eat or taken too many calories, but don't have enough calories to burn up. And sometimes it takes just little adjustments, perhaps not eating the high-calorie foods or high-sugary caloric drinks. Sometimes it's just as easy as just getting a little bit more playtime or activity.
We live in a land of abundance, surrounded by tasty, calorie-rich foods. It's easy to take in too many calories. Calorie-dense foods are cheap and plentiful, with brands familiar to shoppers and their kids. Even when families want to serve healthy food, they may not have the resources to buy healthy ingredients. After all, nutritious foods are expensive. Nutritious foods also require time-consuming preparation, while calorie-dense foods are easy to eat. 8 to 18-year-olds spend about 4 hours a day watching TV, DVDs, and video games. The Nielsen Company reports that kids ages 6 to 11 watch about 28 hours of TV a week. That's time not being spent outdoors getting exercise. At the same time, school exercise programs are being sharply cut back. But it's hard to make the balance of nutrition and exercise work out. In fact, childhood obesity has been recognized as a national problem.
It's clear that childhood obesity has become one of the most pressing challenges facing our nation.
More than 9 million American children and adolescents are overweight, and the Department of Health and Human Services estimates that by 2010, 1 in 5 children in the U.S. will be obese.
You know, the number one healthcare crisis that our children are facing today, it's not cancer, it's not accidents, it's not drugs or alcohol or smoking. It's the advent of childhood obesity.
By the 4th grade, that if they're sentenced to a life of challenges and physical problems associated with obesity and hypertension and high blood pressure, they may never live to their fullest potential.
Economic factors are a big part of this problem.
In many communities, you could buy a weapon sometimes quicker than you could find fresh vegetables or food.
There just aren't a lot of supermarkets. You cross the river into Anacostia in the District of Columbia, you'd be hard-pressed to find many supermarkets, so-called nutrition or nutritional desert.
Many kids don't have a lot of options for living a healthy lifestyle.
Kids are not walking to school. Far greater percentages are taking the bus. When they're in school, there's very little physical activity. When they're out of school, some of the fields and gyms aren't available.
There's a lot of neighborhoods where kids cannot go outside and play anymore. And there's a lot of parents that are very afraid. There's not enough parks around or recreational centers for them to go. And matter of fact, they shouldn't go without their parents at a certain age.
For many kids, schools are the only lifelines that they have. They're the safety net in encouraging kids to eat well and get enough exercise.
I really do believe it has to be in the curriculum of the school.
We know that it's virtually impossible to develop a healthy mind without a healthy body.
Schools are uniquely positioned to address childhood obesity and should be encouraged to ensure that kids are active during the school day.
Supporting our schools must be our first step. What else can we do?
There are 3 healthy habits our children should follow every day. First, never skip breakfast. Second, play outside 1 hour a day. Third, eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day.
The government will need to help out too.
First, on a national level, we can pass the Fit Kids Act, co-authored by Congressman Ron Kine and Zach Wamp, to help bring back physical education in our public schools. Go into our local public schools and encourage physical fitness.
The government can also enforce regulations about how food can be marketed to kids and require more information on products that families can use to make smart food choices. We can reward farmers who grow healthy food and help families, especially low-income families, to buy nutritious products. Childhood obesity. It's a complex problem that requires complex solutions. But the challenge is clear. We must improve nutrition. We must encourage exercise. And we must all work together to raise a generation of healthy, fit citizens for the 21st century.